Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about some really important basics. These are the 5 knots that pretty much every fisherman should know by now. If you really want to improve your skills as a fisherman, these are the 5 knots that you need to learn right now. You need to have these in your database so that when you're on the field, you don't have to question yourself. You can just tie them up, get on fish. Okay, so there's a lot of different things you need to tie knots for. And when you really think about it and you list it out, you start to realize, shoot, there's more than one knot that I need to know. Okay, so just think about this. Tying your main leader, your main braided line to your new leader line. This is called a line-to-line knot, a uni-to-uni knot. That's a really important knot that I use almost every single time I go fishing. Dropper loop knots. These are knots that pretty much you hold your hooks with these knots. It's really important as well. Knots that you need to use to attach your sinker to. Knots that you use for hooks with eyes that point outwards, with eyes that point straight up. There's a lot of different knots. And today we're going to be going over the different knots and where to use them and how to use them. It's actually a lot more simple than you think. I know it's a lot of information, but it's a lot of it is kind of common sense that you don't really think about. But when I run you through this, everything's gonna click. You're really gonna have a clear understanding of how these knots work and what knots that you really want to learn. So let's get started. Okay, so one of the classic ones is I love using braided line. Okay, on my all of my stuff except for conventional reels, unless I'm using it on a huge reel. Mostly I use braided line, and that's because braided line is a lot thinner and stronger than monofilament fluorocarbon line. It's just, you can't compare it. Something like a 20-pound braid is going to cast way further than 20-pound monofilament line. Because it's so thin, it's meant to just cut through the air and really soar out there. Using braided line means you need to learn how to tie line to line. And a line to line knot, I like to use a uni to uni knot. And that's not too hard to do. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that right now. So, should I use this 30-pound line? First of all, I like to keep all my tackle, all my supplies, you guys know this, in my bait boxes here. These bait boxes are awesome. We sell them on our website. I like to keep all my pre-tied rigs, all of my, just all my supplies, because I hate when my stuff gets all wet. I hate when my stuff gets crushed and like nasty and salty and rusty, but when you keep it in these boxes and you keep them together, it just protects it from a lot. And I came up with these. Hopefully you guys are enjoying them. I know I use them pretty much every single time I go fishing just to protect my stuff. Let's get into it. I'm going to use this 30-pound line and show you how to attach that to your leader. Say this is on your fishing reel, okay? And the reason why you would want to tie a leader at all is because fish don't want to see this. When they see this, they get suspicious. They're like, what is that glowing green thing floating in the water? I'm not even going to go near your rod. I'm not even going to go near your bait because they see the line. And that's true in some places, especially in clearer waters. But places like Texas, where the water is a lot muddier, not muddier, but just a lot more, has a lot more color and has a lot more brown in it, it's not as easily seen, but I still am a firm believer that fish are a little bit more weary to seeing braided line than to see clear fluorocarbon or clear monofilament line. We're tying this knot so we can hide our bait a little bit better. Okay? So in order to attach these lines together, it's not just a simple, like a little double knot like this. That's not going to do anything. You really want it to hold really tight, because what if a huge fish hits it? You don't want to lose your whole setup, lose your rig, and then lose a big fish. So it's really important that all of your knots are strong, and your weakest point is going to be your weakest link. So every point on your fishing rig and your fishing setup needs to be strong. The uni to uni knot is my go-to knot because it's really simple. I have other knots that are thinner and smaller, but they're harder to do. And I want to just get you guys on how to tie something as a placeholder right now. And uni to uni knot is a perfectly acceptable, very strong knot to do so with. Let me show you how to do this. So let's do this really simply. Imagine a train track, right? There's 2 train tracks like this. you're going to have them line up like this, right? Now, the way I hold this is first I'm going to tie a uni knot with the braided line, okay? So we're going to pinch these two train tracks together. So the train tracks are together. You make a circle here. And once you have this circle, you're going to put this line in and out of this hole. 1, 2, 3, up to 7 times. 4, 5, 6, 7, right? From here, you're going to tighten it, but not all the way. You're just going to tighten it about halfway, or maybe even 3/4 of the way. And you don't want to do it so fast that it gets all tangled here. Just do it nice and slow. You see that? How it kind of falls into place like that? Look, I'm not tightening it all the way yet because it still needs to slide. That's one side. It's called a uni to uni knot because there's 2 uni knots. This is the first uni knot. Now the next uni knot, we're going to be using the actual monofilament right here. And to do that, 2 train tracks, and then we're going to run through the train track 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we're going to hold this tight, and sometimes putting a little bit of saliva like this gets it wet, and you know when things get wet, it can just slide into place. Right? Okay, so now we have 1 uni knot here, 1 uni knot here. And when they slide together, they catch each other, and they can't go any further, and they tighten. See that? Now that is a good uni knot right there. That's how you attach 2 lines together. And then we'll clip the end. The braid you can cut close. But now this side, you want to leave a little bit, maybe a 1/4 inch. Because monofilament, it stretches. When you tighten the knot, it'll stretch a little bit. It might take a little bit of line. So this little extra bit here allows for some kind of slippage. Now this is how I attach my leader line. That is a really important knot to know because you can start tying rigs on here. You can tie your lure on the end of here. You can tie your shock leader with this. Very important knot to know. Uni to uni knot. Next knot. The next knot we're going to do is actually tied onto a rig right here. This is our high-low rig, which we call the catch-all rig because I literally catch all kinds of fish on this rig, like everywhere I go. So it's important to know how to tie your actual line onto your fishing rig. So that's the next rig I'm going to show you. And here is our catch-all rig right here. These are the ones without the floats. These are our brand new ones. So now I'm going to show you how to tie it to this right here. Ready? In order to tie it onto this, I'm using what's called an improved clinch knot. And this is a very simple knot as well that I use to tie my sinkers. I use to tie these swivels right here. You put it through. And then you put your finger right here. Then you're going to start twisting this line around your finger. 3, 4, I think about 5 to 7 times is the perfect amount. Once you finish wrapping it 7 times, there's a little hole left right here. You see this little loop right here? And you see this little tag end right here? That tag end is going to go through this loop like this. Okay? Now you've made a new loop. That loop is right here. Bring that tag end through that new loop. Okay? Now we're going to just tighten it down. Keeping this tag end close to here, we're just going to slowly pull it. Wet it a little bit. And that's your knot right there. That's an improved clinch knot. And this knot is great to tie swivels on, to tie sinkers on. Just a really awesome knot, really quick knot that's very crucial. There we go. That's the next knot. Another great way to use the improved clinch knot that I use all the time is on these kind of hooks where it has a straight eye right here. And guys, this is a ridiculously large hook I'm showing you right now that is not, I don't actually use this hook. I'm just showing you for demonstration purposes only. This is the improved clinch knot that I use on a big hook like this. On hooks that have straight eyes, right? You just put it in, twist it around 7 times, put it through the first hole, put it through the second hole, tighten slowly, right? The next knot we're going to tie is a dropper loop knot. And this knot is really important if you're tying your own fishing rigs. High-low rigs. The catch-all rig that I just showed you actually, this one right here. This is tied with 2 dropper loops. This is composed of 2 dropper loops. This is one of them. This is the other one, and that attaches the hook onto here, right? Dropper loop is really important if you want to learn how to tie your own fishing rigs. The second knot that is used for this rig is that improved clinch. You see this? This is improved clinch on the clip side of the swivel, and then this is also improved clinch that I just showed you how to tie. So really, if you want to tie your own rigs, you need to know 2 knots, the improved clinch and the dropper loop. And there, of course, are alternatives to these knots. These are the knots that I use because they're simple, they're fast, and they're effective. And I want to share with you guys how to tie that one next. We're going to use the 4/0 sized cutting point owner hooks. And I love to use owner hooks because they are just so sharp. And they're made in Japan. And in my opinion, I've said it before, Japanese stuff is just far superior to American made stuff. So, dropper loop. I would typically tie it with fluorocarbon or monofilament line because my rigs are all made with that material. I would never ever tie rigs using braid. I'm only using this for a demonstration so that you guys can see how my fingers move with the line, how the line looks when it slips into the knot, only for demonstration purposes. Okay? Dropper loop. And if you guys want to learn how to tie the catch-all rig that I make, I actually have videos on how to tie that as well. Not everyone wants to buy a pre-made rig. Some people, they want to learn how to tie, and I respect that because that's me too. I love tying my own stuff. But if you are like me, I love to do it all myself. Everything, down to the last bit of it. I like to tie my own rigs. And it's really important to know this knot to tie your own rigs. It's the basis for a lot of different kinds of rigs. And the dropper loop knot is really simple. This is the dropper loop. We're going to do it by making a loop. Then I put my fingers like this. And maybe you want to pause the camera. Maybe you want to pause your video right now to see the positioning of my fingers. But this is how I do it. And you can do it however is comfortable with your fingers. Maybe you don't have all your fingers. Maybe you got to do it some way different. But this is what I do. I twist these 2 lines together like this, and I'm holding the rest with these fingers back here. You see these? I twist about 7 times. Okay? Then, you see this loop right here that we just made? Whatever this circle is, and you see this line down here? You want to bring this line through this loop, and then we're going to tighten it. And I use my teeth right here. Ready? And with all these knots, don't tighten them really fast. Tighten them nice and slow, and watch how the line falls together. Right? You see this end right here is a little bit closer than this end. So what I'm going to do here is just pull this out a little bit. To just make sure that it's even. And then I'm going to tighten them evenly. And that's a dropper loop right there. See how simple that was? I made it look simple, but sometimes it takes a couple of tries to really be able to get it. But once you get it, don't stop. Do it again. Make sure you get it again. Then once you get it again, do it one more time because you're gonna forget. You need to learn to train your muscles to be able to do it without thinking too much. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. The faster you'll be at it. And the faster you are, the more fish you'll potentially catch. Okay, now to attach the hook, we're just literally just gonna push it through here. Push it through. Oh, Jiminy Crickets. Oh my Lanta. Here we go. Alright. We push it through. Then you see how it makes a hole here? Put that through the hook. And then pull. Dropper loop. Boom. Very important knot. Okay, the next knot I like to use is a really, really fast knot. This is actually the fastest knot that I can possibly tie. And this is not necessarily the strongest knot, although I've never had it fail on me. But it's not a very intricate knot. It's a very simple knot to tie that I typically use just to tie my sinkers on. Okay? So if you're tying a sinker on and you don't have one of these swivel clips, I'll either tie it on a swivel clip or I'll tie it directly on a sinker. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Here are the sinkers. Right? I'm using a pyramid sinker here. These sinkers are good just to sit on the bottom. You see how when current pushes it, it won't roll around, right? Because it has 4 different sides. It stays on the bottom planted in there like this. That's why I like to use pyramid sinkers, because it stays on the bottom really well. I don't typically use these in like rocky areas because this gets stuck since it has so many corners. It gets stuck in the rocks. But this is a really great rig to use for the beach. So here's the knot, right? I don't have an official name for it. It's just really fast knot for me. Ready? Just tie a regular knot, like an overhand knot. Ready? You're halfway done now. Okay? Put the sinker through. Ready? Tie another overhand knot. Pull it. Done. You see how fast that was? And look how strong it is. Ah! It's really strong. I'm not kidding, guys. Really strong. And it was so fast to tie it. Less than 10 seconds for this knot. Really, really great knot. I suggest you learn this one. If you know how to tie an overhand knot, you already know how to tie it. I only really use this on sinkers because the fish doesn't bite the sinker. If I lose the sinker, it's okay. But I mean, you saw how strong the knot was already. I haven't lost anything on it. I haven't tried using it on anything else but the sinker. But give it a try, guys. Maybe it'll work well for you. It's a different story when the eye is turned out. And let me explain to you what a turned out eye looks like. This is a turned out eye right here. You see how the difference is? You see this eye right here versus a straight eye like this. There's a difference. Straight, turned out. When it's turned out, I tie a Snell knot, right? If it's not on a dropper loop, and I just need to tie it on the end, for example, here's our sure catch rig, okay? This is where I would use a turned out eye. And the sure catch rig is really, really crucial rig that pretty much everyone should know. It's also called a Carolina rig. There's so many different names for these rigs just from different places in the world that there's really no point of calling it anything in specific. I call it the sure catch rig because I'm sure to catch something on it. There's always something out there that will be caught with this kind of rig. The sure catch rig looks like this. You see? Okay, now you can just free line this with a piece of bait on there, no weight, or you can put like an egg sinker. You can also put an egg sinker on your main line like this, and then tie it onto here, right? and that would be a Carolina rig like this. That works really well. But what I'm showing you here is that you'll need to tie this hook on correctly, right? You don't use an improved clinch on something like this. This, I like a Snell knot because it gives it more strength on the knot. Whereas if this gets chewed up by something, it's so strong here that nothing's gonna happen. Versus if it's just one small knot up here, all it takes is one clip off and it's gone. This is a lot stronger in my opinion, and it holds onto the hook way better. So, for the Snell knot, and there's so many ways to do it, this is the way I do it. You're gonna feed it through the top down first, right? Then you're gonna make a little loop right here. You see that? Then you're gonna bring this tag end. You're gonna pinch it right here at the top of the tag end, and you're gonna wrap it around the shank about 4 or 5 times. You can even do up to 7, 8 times, but it's up to you. I do at least 4, right? Then after I twist it around, you see this new loop right here? You see this loop right here? I put the tag end through that loop, and then I pull from this end. And when I pull from this end, everything starts to tighten. And then I start pulling from this end. And I make sure that everything lines up, and then I give it a final tight down. See that? Really simple Snell knot. And like I said, I will never tie it onto braid. I will always tie it onto fluorocarbon or monofilament line. Never tie it to braid. This is only for demonstration purposes. So if you skipped to this part of the video and you see I'm tying with braid, here's my disclaimer. Don't ever tie your rigs with braid. Ever. Ever, ever. Unless you're like in a survival situation where you're about to die and you need to catch some fish and all you have is braided line, fine. That's acceptable. But I don't ever want to see you guys out there throwing a rig made of all braid. Please. And thank you. So those are some of the most important knots that I use every time I go fishing. Every time I go fishing, I use at least 3 of these knots. And it's really important to know because I don't want to be out there on the field looking up on Google how to tie these knots, how to do this, or I don't want to go out on the field and only have pre-tied rigs. I run out of pre-tied rigs and then I have to go home. It's really important to learn these knots. If you guys are interested, I have a lot of information on our website, HeySkipperFishing.com. I have a lot of books that I've written where I've animated and illustrated it myself on how to tie these knots, how to tie my favorite kinds of knots, and a lot of different other books on just basically how to catch fish. That's our job here at Hey Skipper. We want to get you guys on fish. And not just that, we want to show you guys step by step how to do so. So if you're a new beginner or you're an expert, it doesn't matter. We are here to catch some fish together. Thank you guys for watching. I do videos like this every week. Some days I'm here in studio. Some days I'm out in the actual field showing you how to catch fish. Either way, all of it's important. Subscribe if you like these kind of videos. And if you want to support us any further, you guys can get yourself like a bait box like this filled with salted baits. And they come with rigs as well. We have huge bundles and lots of great deals on there so that basically what we specialize in is not just putting out really awesome products, but we specialize in showing you guys how to use these products as well. Because a lot of times it's not just about having the rig. You need to know how to use it. You need to understand, why am I tying this knot? Why am I using this rig? Why am I using this hook? And I'm the guy to help you out with that. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next week.